opposite of what Democrats and people like Hillary would want. Instead, the left, they want judges who even value and cite international law, not our own constitution. People that would legislate from the bench. People that believe in this evolving interpretation that means nothing of our constitution. What the left can never accomplish through the ballot box or through real legislation, they actually try to accomplish by abusing the court system and using activist judges to accomplish it. All their left-wing dreams and ideology. Now, make no mistake, as soon as the president taps, whoever Anthony Kennedy's replacement will be, you're going to witness the single most contentious, nasty, vicious, dirty propaganda, character assassination campaign. It will be one of the most contentious political battles in decades. Tonight, your news media is already going there. So in light of today's breaking news, yes, it's time for another Hannity history lesson to bring you. This time it involves just how desperate and low Democrats will go and literally malign the character of good, decent, smart people and what they plan to do to the president's next Supreme Court nominee, whoever it ends up being. They will try to destroy them. Let's start with the outgoing Justice Anthony Kennedy. Now, for 30 years, Kennedy, he's accumulated what is a very mixed track record, nominated by Ronald Reagan in 1988. Many have referred to him as the court's swing justice. He saved Roe versus Wade from being overturned. He upheld the use of affirmative action, extended legal rights to foreign terrorists at Gitmo. But Kennedy also voted to kill Obamacare, preserve Second Amendment rights, and most recently, he voted to uphold the president's travel ban. It's kind of weird because he never had a judicial philosophy that he seemed to adhere to, like Justice Thomas or Justice Scalia or Justice Alito. And now with President Trump poised to nominate what he has said he would do in the campaign, a strict originalist, to replace the very unpredictable Kennedy, Democrats are now sharpening their spears just like they did back in 1987. Let's go down memory lane. Now, before Reagan nominated Anthony Kennedy to the Supreme Court, he did tap somebody who was a judicial genius. He tapped a strict constitutional originalist. His name was Judge Robert Bork. And hell-bent on preventing Robert Bork from becoming a Supreme Court justice, Senate Democrats engaged in one of the most disgusting smear campaigns, which culminated on the Senate floor with outright lies from Senator Ted Kennedy. Watch how low they can go. Take a look.
Robert Bork's America is a land in which women would be forced into back alley abortions. Blacks would sit at segregated lunch counters. Rogue police could break down citizens' doors in midnight raids. And school children could not be taught about evolution. Writers and artists would be censured at the whim of government.
All lies, all attempts to scare, intimidate the American people. Now, after what you just saw, Democrats were able to actually block the nomination. That's how we now have ended up with the term being borked, which, by the way, the Oxford English Dictionary describes as, quote, obstructs someone by systematically defaming or vilifying them. Let's fast forward a couple of years later. The confirmation of now Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. During his Senate hearings, this goes back to 1991, Democrats rolled out his former colleague, Anita Hill, to make sexual harassment allegations against him. The process became so vicious and nasty, Justice Thomas, in what is now infamous, famous comments, he referred to it as a high-tech lynching. Watch this.
This is a circus. It's a national disgrace. And from my standpoint, as a Black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity Blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, this is what will happen to you. You will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate rather than hung from a tree.
Damn,
Wow.
Jada.
Powerful, powerful remarks. You know, character assassination, look at just the last week and what's happening and what has been said and what is being said about women and Secretary Nielsen and Pam Bondi and so many others, and Ivanka and Melania and Sarah Sanders. By the way, if you want to read one of the best books you'll ever read, it's written by Clarence Thomas. It's called My Grandfather's Son. Now, if you think what you saw is bad, it's about to get actually probably worse, with the ideological makeup of the Supreme Court now hanging in the balance after President Trump successfully nominated originalist Neil Gorsuch to the court. Senate Democrats are about to pull out all stops. They'll do and say anything, just like Ted Chappaquiddick Kennedy, to block Donald Trump's pick. Now, we're not even a day out from Justice Kennedy's announcement, and the left is already in full-on, total freak-out, panic, scare the American people mode, and full-on lying mode. Watch this.
Are you guys ready to maybe rip up some of the rules that have, as Rachel said, limited Democrats?
Yes, Nicole, and I know we're ready.
For the fabric of our democracy, Democrats should dig in hard here and do everything they conceivably can do to block this nomination, any nomination, from going forward.
Our Republican colleagues in the Senate should follow the rule they set in 2016, not to consider a Supreme Court justice in an election year.
It's time for Democrats to throw down. And what I mean by that is that we've been playing by the rule book, and Donald Trump and Republicans have been playing by street rules. We need to play by street rules.
Don't allow a vote on this. Don't have a hearing. Don't have a meeting. Don't let anything go forward. Don't play ball with this decision.
Merely a preview of coming attractions. At this massive rally tonight in Fargo, North Dakota, the president previewed this looming battle and so much more. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
A very special guy also just announced a little while ago his retirement from the United States Supreme Court. Great man. And I'm very honored that he chose to do it during my term in office, because he felt confident in me to make the right choice and carry on his great legacy. That's why he did it. Democrats want judges who will rewrite the Constitution any way they want to do it and take away your Second Amendment, erase your borders, throw open the jailhouse doors, and destroy your freedoms. We must elect more Republicans. We have to do that. We need more Republicans, especially in the Senate. We have to hold the House and maybe even increase it, and I think we'll be able to do it. They keep talking about this blue wave. Their blue wave is really sputtering pretty badly. The red wave is happening. Just look what happened last night.
This will be the most important midterm election in our lifetime. It's that profound. As the president now gains political momentum and builds an impressive track record, accomplishments, I think we're the only show that shows you them, the Democratic Party is falling apart. The era of global freeloading, the president said, is over. An example, last night, a 28-year-old socialist from New York defeated longtime Democratic incumbent in a congressional primary race. As President Trump said tonight, he got his ass kicked.
Yeah, I heard
Hillary
that.
Cortez as a rising star on the political landscape, but in reality, her views, her policy positions are actually downright scary. Look, by the way, he was a guy that was supposed to take over for Nancy Pelosi, perhaps. Look very carefully. This is the future. This is your modern Democratic Party. Cortez will likely win the general election in a Democratic district, is pushing for, let's see, single-payer, universal health care, universal jobs, government-subsidized housing for everybody, tuition, free colleges. She wants to abolish ICE and, of course, impeach President Trump. Watch this.
Would you push for a Trump impeachment should you win?
Well, I would support impeachment. I think that we have the grounds to do it. I think what really we need to focus on is making sure that we are advocating for the policies to win in November. But ultimately, I think that what we need to kind of focus on is ensuring that we can, when people break the law, potentially break the law, that we have to hold everyone accountable and that no person is above that law.
Now, the only difference between the self-proclaimed socialist that you just saw and the rest of the Democratic Party is she's actually more honest. And as we've shown you many times, and we'll show you all through this election season, I'll give you the agenda of the Democratic Party. First, they want to impeach 45. You just heard it, but they're not going to tell you. And, of course, they want to preserve Obamacare. And, by the way, Nancy Pelosi and company, they're even saying this publicly. They want the tax cuts back. They want their crumbs returned. And that means $2,000 on average per American family. And, obviously, they want open borders. Now we have a fifth part of their Democratic agenda that we're adding to our list, and that is to destroy whoever the president picks to replace Justice Kennedy on the U.S. Supreme Court. I keep saying this is the single most important midterm election of our lifetimes. Now, will President Trump be able to assert his agenda for the last 2 years of his first term, or are socialists, will they be able to impeach him, obstruct him every step of the way? Will we have another originalist on the Supreme Court, or will Democrats be able to successfully block Kennedy's successor? Do you really want these people running the country? Let's take a look.
A few years ago, ideas that we talked about were thought to be fringe ideas, radical ideas, extremist ideas. Those ideas are now mainstream.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you call the crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
What's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women?
One way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy, so please bring on the recession.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Yeah, I remember that shit. A lot of crap. Unhinged.
That's a powerful ad from the
Yep.
RNC,
Put it
perfectly
down.
encapsulating the mindset of the left today. And as you can see, they're not really the peaceful people that they claim to be.
Yep.
Their rhetoric is not just wrong, it's now downright dangerous.
Yep.
We'll have more on the Democrats' disgusting tactics in a moment. But first, we do have breaking developments surrounding Peter Strzok. As you know by now, he was the corrupt, biased, pro-Hillary, anti-Trump, Trump-hating FBI official who was once tasked with investigating Trump-Russia collusion, and also was at the forefront of helping to exonerate Hillary Clinton of all the felonies and obstruction we know she committed as it relates to her server investigation. Well, today he was apparently grilled, but only behind closed doors by two committees on Capitol Hill. And according to a brand new report from Sarah Carter, bad news. One congressman in attendance, Representative Ron DeSantis, said, quote, it was Strzok. He is full of it, and he kept hiding behind the, quote, classified information excuse. Now, fortunately, we do have one hopeful development. Today, the House Judiciary Committee tweeted, quote, Peter Strzok will be interviewed first in a closed-door deposition. There will be classified information to sort through before a public hearing is held. A public hearing will be held. Now, this public hearing is crucial. You, the American people, deserve to know how bias at the highest levels of the FBI, in fact, tainted what was the Hillary Clinton so-called investigation. It's irrefutable, incontrovertible. She committed crimes, and then the same people involved in literally putting the fix in for her were the began the witch hunt into, of course, so-called collusion and the Mueller investigation. Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, three other FBI investigators, Comey, McCabe, the Orrs, Mueller's merry band of Democratic donors, Jeannie Ray, Andrew Weissman, and so many more. We deserve answers. You know why? Because this was about influencing a presidential election and literally supporting and helping somebody we know broke the law and then viciously trying to destroy another candidate. And Peter Strzok must be held accountable, and he has questions to answer to the public. All right, we have a lot to get to tonight. Joining us with reaction to the open Supreme Court vacancy, President Trump's judicial nominations advisors, Leonard Leo, and joining us by phone is President Trump's attorney, Jay Sekulow, who, by the way, does legal work for me, and, by the way, do you like basically represent everybody? Full disclosure, and I had dinner once with Jen, and I paid. All right, let's start with your reaction to this. Is history. This is generations. This is an opportunity now This is a big deal. And let's go through the philosophy of the president in making this decision.
Well, look, I think I've litigated Supreme Court cases in front of Anthony Kennedy for 3 decades. So, and about 80% of the time, he ruled in our favor. About 20% of the time, he did not. He was always a professional, but the fact is that when I disagree with him, or he disagreed with me, which he had the right to do, he's the justice of this. His vote counted a lot more than mine. But at the end of the day, I would say more times than not, he went with us. But there was not a consistent, what we would call a conservative philosophy in the mold of, say, now Justice Gorsuch or Antonin Scalia, Justice Alito, Justice Thomas. And the president now has an opportunity to nominate a justice in that judicial philosophy that the president talked about and continues to talk about, and that is putting someone on the court that has that, what I would call an originalist Supreme Court philosophy or constitutional philosophy, a constitutional conservative. You can call it a lot of different phrases, but the fact is someone that views the Constitution by the words that are written in it. You amend the Constitution through an amendment process, not through judicial fiat. And I think that's what you'll see in a Supreme Court nominee.
Yeah, and Leonard Leo, I think what Jay said is right on the money. Kennedy did not have a consistent judicial philosophy, which made him the swing vote. I mean, you have 4 reliable liberal justices on the court right now. And I mean, we know how they're going to vote. In 9 out of 10, 99% of cases. This is important because there's been at least 25 times that Anthony Kennedy has sided with the 4 liberal justices on the court. This is a game changer.
What's transformative about this is that the president's committed to nominating people to the court who have a very firm judicial philosophy. You know, people who understand that the Constitution needs to be interpreted the way the framers meant it to be.
Right.
Individuals who are courageous in that interpretive approach and are not going to flinch. We saw that in Neil Gorsuch, and I think if the president nominates another individual like Neil Gorsuch, what we're going to see is widespread public support, and I would say also probably bipartisan support in the Senate to some extent, as we did with Justice Gorsuch.
Leonard Leo, you may be more optimistic than me. I just look at the Democratic Party today, and I think basically unless you're a saint and you've never written on the law at all, if you have any judicial philosophy, we know what they want to do, and that's bork somebody. I want to go a little bit deeper, Jay, into the idea. This is important for people to understand. The president does not believe in judicial activism. He believes in separation of powers. He believes in co-equal branches of government. He doesn't believe in citing foreign law. They believe in the Constitution. He believes that justices should not legislate for the bench. That's for the legislative body to do.
Well, that's right. And here's you mentioned the foreign law application. I litigate in courts in other countries. I've litigated cases in the European Court of Human Rights. And when our court, when the Supreme Court of the United States were to cite, and they do from time to time cite cases from the European Court of Human Rights, recognizing that many of these governments that are part of the ECHR, as it's called, do not even have constitutions, let alone our Constitution. So I think this whole trend that you've seen develop over the last 40 years, and Sean, this goes way back. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, but this goes way back. The idea that, and I think this is where Leonard's absolutely correct. I'm actually optimistic that if we see, and I am convinced we will, see a nominee in the caliber of Neil Gorsuch, that individual will get bipartisan support. That's because at the end of the day, the reality is that the president is the one that nominates. It's with the advice and consent of the Senate, but the president gets to make the nomination.
Last word, we'll give it to you, Leonard Leo, tonight.
I'm very confident the president's going to nominate an extraordinary individual. It'll be a big fight, Sean, as you point out, but the American people stand with us in appointing judges.
Is Brett Kavanaugh a front runner?
I think he's somebody who's being very seriously considered, absolutely.
Thank you both. When we come back, Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett, and Jim Jordan was in that hearing with Strzok. Straight ahead.
This program is brought to you by...
I'll tell you what, guys. You better listen up. Because Trump's going to get that second election. And Pence is going to be right smack behind him. And we ain't going to have nothing but liberals, you know, not liberals, but alrighty then. Well, sorry guys, I've been fishing all day. My head ain't right. I'm just not eating and watching the news of what's been going on since I've been fishing. Had a good day though. Anyway, what I was saying is the future is going to change drastically. And if you're not prepared for it, I hate to say it, but it's bound to happen. Things are going to change for the better, like we need them to. And we should have had them done, but like Trump and everybody else said, the Democrats have been stomping our ass, and we've been letting them. So, that's a lot of swords. Anyway, needless to say, as you can see, it's commercial until now. No, commercial. But anyway, I don't know about you, but I think it's a damn good deal. He's doing what should have been done years ago, and we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today. So, God has directed him to do what needs to be done to save this nation. It may not be everybody's way, but I tell you what, it's God's way. So, with that said, I'm going to pause this.
Book out in early July, the Russia hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. Please order your copies. This is a great book. I have actually had the honor of reading it. Greg Jarrett. Jim, you're in the room. I'd love to know what you can tell us.
Well, not much, because we got to wait for the transcript to be released. But I will tell you this.
When is that, by the way?
Well, it should. I don't know. That's up to the chairman. But many times he took the answer on advice of FBI counsel. I can't answer that. I mean, I heard that way too many times. And so I plan on bringing that up tomorrow with Mr. Rosenstein.
100?
He's in front of the judiciary. Well, no, I don't know if it's that many. But certainly a number of the key questions are what I thought were key questions I had. That's the response he gave us. Ongoing investigation on advice of FBI counsel. I can't answer that. If Mr. Rosenstein is really wanting to be transparent with Congress and get us the information, he should have had one of his employees answer our darn questions today when we were in the deposition.
I love your fight, and you're right. And we need to see these hearings. They should not
Sean,
have been
tomorrow, here's the other thing. Tomorrow, we have a resolution on the floor. I think the full House will go on record tomorrow saying, Mr. Rosenstein, we're giving you one last chance. 7 days to get us the information we're supposed to have. And then if you don't get it to us, there are other options we have under the Constitution. But that resolution is on the floor of the House tomorrow morning.
And by the way, Sarah, just an amusing aside, I hear Mr. Rosenstein doesn't particularly like me. I have no idea why. I'm a very likable
I've heard
guy.
rumors, Sean. I've heard a lot of rumors about how he doesn't like you.
Oh, you actually heard what I heard today. That's what you're saying. Oh, great. I'm glad you're laughing at it at my expense. You know, because
That's
he did
okay.
threaten members of Congress, I'll get your emails. And he does have a temper, and great. And he doesn't like me. Oh, boy. I'll watch my doors closely. Let me ask you seriously. You have been able to dig a little bit today. You did find out some information, your sources that you would never reveal. Tell us what you know.
Well, a lot of what I've been hearing right now is that Peter Strzok is hiding behind this idea of classified information that he can't talk, which was so interesting, Sean, since Strzok himself and his attorney said they were more than willing to come to the Hill to speak to lawmakers and be forthright with them. And now they're hiding behind this. And I think that a lot of the sources that I've been speaking with are saying, okay, look, we're going to give him one last chance behind closed doors for classified testimony. Then it will be a public hearing. And now the final notch in all of this is the fact that Peter Strzok himself is apparently saying that he had nothing to do with Carter Page's FISA warrant. This is really important because if he did it, that means there's other people just like Peter Strzok that had the same intentions. And that means we need those documents now. And that is what they are going to be fighting for. And that is what the lawmakers tomorrow are going to be asking for.
But what we've got is obstruction, just complete ignoring of subpoenas, redactions. We've gotten claims of national security that turn out not to be so. Greg, all right, that sounds like he is basically, parsing, I didn't spy on Carter Page. How do you interpret that?
Yeah, he said he didn't draft the FISA application to spy on Page.
No, it has nothing to do with spying on.
Right, and didn't provide input. He's parsing words. Take a look at his text messages in which he was bragging that he knows a FISA judge and has already talked to a FISA judge. And that text message was at the same time he was presiding over the Trump-Russia case. There are other text messages that suggest he was working through a conduit at the Department of Justice. So, he's a very, clever guy with his words. The fact is, his texts show overt, explicit, pervasive bias, and there was only one thing going on. He was out to stop Trump.
It didn't work.
The title, Congressman, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary and frame Donald Trump, the Russia hoax, I think it captures everything we're dealing with here. Yeah. This is about really trying to circumvent the American people and steal a presidential election. I see it as the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal in our history. We're only at the beginning of it. When do we get to see Strzok ourselves?
Well, that'll happen soon. The chairman's committed to that. Greg's exactly right. He was the lead agent on the Russia case, and he was deputy head of counterintelligence. Don't tell me he had nothing to do with the FISA application and putting that together. Second, it's one thing to say Trump is awful. Trump should lose 100 million to zero. He was not under oath, but he's obligated to be truthful with Congress. So it's the same difference. But
not really.
It's
not really.
Well, it actually is. I mean, this is the normal way that these transcribed interviews are done. Slightly different than a deposition, but basically the same thing. But it's one thing for him to say Trump is awful. Trump should lose 100 million to zero. It's another thing when he says we will stop Trump, and he makes that statement 7 days after he's opened the Russian investigation into President Trump. So this idea that it was just bias and it didn't manifest itself in how the investigation was conducted, I just don't know how anyone with common sense can buy that.
Sarah, real quick.
Amen.
Absolutely. Congress needs to fight and fight hard. They need to stick with what they've said, and I hope they do. Either they push for those documents or they file those contempt or even impeachment against Rod Rosenstein and see if that gets him to move.
President Trump should order the release of those documents. The President Trump should order the release of the documents.
And they would have to.
If Rosenstein doesn't do it, he should be fired. And Christopher Wray as well.
The President can order the release.
Yes, and in fact, he can order they be delivered to the White House counsel, who could then provide them to Congress.
Yeah. Thank you all three of you. More tomorrow. Wait for that. More Hannity straight ahead.
Calm it down. Yep, shit's gonna hit the fan. Swamp's gonna be unplugged and drained and taken care of. Shit's gonna change like a big dog. Well, guys, I tell you what, I'm gonna end this. But I tell you what, I've got a doozy of a video for you after this one. Stay tuned. Talk at you later. Bye.